Hello guys, welcome back to Cassette Confessions. Today we're looking at Spooks and Surprises from 1998. We're back with Thomas Tanch and Friends for its next solo video, of course. The last solo video actually talked about on its own to Thomas Tanch and Friends was Thomas and Stepney back in 1995, and that was actually a few videos away actually. So it's interesting to come back here now. We're on series 5 now, one of my absolute favourite series of all time. Second favourite it is actually. It's my favourite series narrated by Michelangelo. For the best one to Ring of Stories, it has to be series 2 because of his narration is better, very more stronger, and a consistency of stories. It's very consistent, but it's actually it gets a lot nice, a lot of memorable stuff in series 2. Same with series 5 as well. Series 5 is quite different from what you might expect. It's sort of its own little oddity. It's the only series that is quite different from what have come previously with series 1 to 4 with the audio stories and everything else, the adaptations. Then obviously from series 6 and onwards, of course, you have the sort of the light touches, the moral stories, the half-assed writing, of course. But this is interesting because it's more action-packed. It's very, I would say, it has more of a grunge element to it because how it's filmed and everything else, like how it's shot and everything else. They're still using the old models from way back in '91. They do look a bit tattered, really. Like in some places. I mean, visually, it's actually a bit more striking, very more cinematic, and indeed, it's actually very perfect. It's very perfect. I always think it's very strong in tone. Story-wise, it's actually darker, more action-packed. A lot of interesting twists and turns as well, so it's pretty stellar stuff, really. Consider it's from 1998, and it's like all those years ago, blimey. What's like 22 years ago? 22 years ago that was. Jeez. But anyway, Spooks and Surprises. So basically we have like themed VHSs this time. This is what VCI was doing at the time, really. They're releasing themed-esque compilations that Tom was doing at the time between, I probably think maybe from 95 or 96 till this year actually. So let's get into it now. So first we've got this Horrid Lorry. I think this is episode 2. This is to be fair. They're all mix and match. They are. It's like going back into like Thomas and Stepney and that sort of thing. When the episodes are solving, they're not full. They're not like the series 1 to 3. Where they're all consistent. They follow one each other. From like you have first 8 episodes on 1, then number 8, then number 10. This time they're just basically mixed around, but in the sort of order they are. They're sort of in the actual order, but just misplaced they have. Like you have maybe 2, then something like 7, then 11 or something like that. It's like mix and match. But Horrid Lorry, we have a good one. Introduces the lorries, of course. Very good, very interesting. I mean, from the off, you have a different change you do. Again, great direction by David Mitton. Photography-wise is actually brilliant. It's actually very crystal clear, very brilliant. Actually, sort of very. I'm trying to think of it. It's very. Oh my god! Again, I say grunge-esque type. It does have that sort of wear and tear feel to it. It does, especially with the characters. Actually, there is sort of like awareness, like a very wariness of them. Actually, in this one, sort of like appearance-wise, really. It's like these models for the previous 3 seasons. It's like they still keep going on with these, of course, and it is like it's like obviously it gives us more of an earthy type of look, really. I think I don't think everyone's really noticed about them. Again, really good story, of course. I do find that interesting when Thomas comes in, at the end of the story and says the Brothers Grimm. It's quite interesting, actually. It's quite an interesting thing, really. And I'll say, the Brothers Grimm and all that sort of stuff, really. And it's like, I don't know. It's very mysterious. It's like when you come back to like the episodes like Grandpuff and stuff like that. There's always mysterious with him, with Thomas, especially with those lines actually, and how Angelus delivers them, really. I think this one's like more of a chuckle, really. Whereas like in Grandpuff, of course, there's that sort of like secretive, wistfulness, mysterious type thing going on. I don't know if you actually get that in the version of I so do sometimes. But it's interesting. It's all weird ways to lane up, but it's a good story. Fantastic way to open up. Then we've got Gordon the Gremlin. This is more of a funny comedy romp type story, of course. It just involves mishaps, of course, with a famous visitor, which actually turns to be the Fat Controller's mother, Dowager Hat. of course. I think she only made this one appearance in this one. Then she appeared later down the seasons, of course, more prominent, very much. But this is the first time we actually see her in this one. I do like it. It's really good, of course. Of course, of course, Gordon having maybe had a few problems to say that there's gremlins around, of course, which is sort of joke out they do. It's like a bit of bad luck, a bit of bad karma, really, to be honest. You have the amazing scene, of course, with the stations, of course, with the Dalmatian basically goes around, basically, what was it? Jumps to a field, finds gets chased by a black bull, which is interesting. Then comes around. It's like it has like a sort of like semi Benny Hill type of feel, even though it's quite edited, like in I would call it like a stop motion frame type scenario with it, of course. Not really. You don't see it as full on stop motion, of course. Like you see like it sort of fades and they moves and it fades. Just how I don't really mind that actually. It's alright actually. But it's a good story, very funny one. It's also relevant. I forgot to mention this actually, of course. All stories were written by Britt Allcroft and David Mitton, but there's actually a third person who actually written about 9 stories in this season, and that's a guy called David Maymont. David Maymont was brought in as a railway consultant for the series, and he actually ended up contributing 9 stories to this. So there's actually 3 people writing most of like a little portion of the series on this one, so it's pretty interesting actually. And his involvement is absolutely stellar. I mean, he just give out some realism, because he used to work on a railway actually. Then he used to give out, and there was basically some different ideas, of course, that were used, of course. And Gordon and Gremlin is actually one of them, involving the role, like it's involved in a royal visitor or something being swashed around her bathtub, of course, during one of her visits of a railway, and just somehow happened, and somehow decided to replicate it on a television show. Fair enough. Yeah, but his involvement, Maymont's involvement, is actually brilliant. Actually, it's crucial to have one series. It's a shame they never did. He never went on to do it. He never consulted or contributed to another season actually, which might have been really good. This and maybe I saw like in Imaginary Series 6. That might have been really interesting. He still have its power, but for his sole role in Series 5, it's brilliant. It's great actually. He does give it something a bit more. He gives it more of an edge, really, I think. And it does work nicely. And then we come on to Haunted Henry. Christ, very atmospheric, creepy as hell. It's one of those people always think of this one in Series 5. Very creepy, very well directed by David Mitton. Photography as well. Good use of the smoke machine. Very creepy sets as well. It's really gives up the atmospheric edge. If you think Ghost Train's creepy, this is really tops it up. It ramps up to 11, really. In terms of like just really, it gives me the goosebumps. It still does actually. All these years, but it's fantastic. Good music as well by Michael Dahl and Julian Campbell. They're on fire on this series. They're really on fire. Great stuff. Great, interesting cues, of course. Little bits and pieces. Some reused bits and pieces, of course, but it's fantastic. And then we've got Toby's Discovery. It's sort of two-handed, right? Of course, it's more like an adventure type story. Very much like he goes around, this forgotten part of the island, of course. Going through like a castle, then an old mine. Then afterwards, it goes into like creepy atmospheric territory, like Haunted Henry. Towards the end, it all comes out of nowhere, really. It's like again, atmospheric, creepy as well. It builds up suspense. Again, it's a decent little story. Not one of the best stories, I would think. The Toby-centric ones are a bit okay, really. Then we've got Thomas and the Rumours, of course. Another light-hearted one. Thomas helps out a bunch of kids because the playground's closed for some reason, for unknown reasons, which is bit strange, bit interesting actually. Like, the kids need help because our playground's shut down. What is he going to do? That's the thing. And you get to there's like 2 little things, of course. They have the playground thing with children, but you also got you have the rumours, of course, that Harold is replacing everyone, doing flying this inspector around in around the island, and also that sort of builds up like the sort of the thing, of course. Like we're gonna get replaced, we're gonna get this sort of thing, of course. It happens a few stories, but this is a decent attempt of it. It's actually based on an Andrew Brennan strip. Yes, so actually, there's a couple of these stories, of course. Apparently, Mitton and Allcroft did actually use stories done by Andrew Brenner, which were actually produced in the 80s by Marvel Comics, believe it or not. he didn't get any consent. He didn't know knowledge that they actually used some of his stories. They did in series 3 as well, but they didn't credit him at all, unfortunately. Bit of a shame, unfortunately, but it's a good story. It is, Thomas and Rimmer's decent one, that is. And then we've got Spice and Percy. It's basically sort of like again another light-hearted, very runaway type situation. Runaway trucks going down a hill, of course, and that's really about it. It's just Percy and Tulsa and the trucks, really, just that sort of thing. But it's good, and it builds into a little chase involving the Fat Controller and Bertie the Bus, of course. Really good. And then we come to Duncan Gets Spook, the other chilling, suspenseful, same vein as Haunted Henry, of course. People remember this one. Very creepy as well. Involves an iron bridge. An engine falling to its death in a ravine, drowns to death. Strangely enough, that is actually included, a death scene. Who'd have thought it? Again, creepy stuff, that is. It's like very bold. Everything else is just pretty chilling, of course. With Duncan's just on the iron bridge, of course, you get this suspenseful feeling that something's really going to happen. Instead, he's driving fine and playing a trick on him and just drop a boulder or a rock down the ravine and sort of scare him to death, really. The whole Fireflies thing is quite bizarre. Comes back, he comes back across the bridge, of course, delivering Slate, and stops. Then he sees, these Fireflies just form the engine, of course, sort of, in a way. Good use of animation, of course. I think, or computer generated effects, really, in that one. Really good. Interesting, and it is quite chilling, of course. Very sort of creepy. Everything else, it's memorable because it's creepiness. Same with Haunted Henry, of course. They both go hand in hand together. But it's a good one, creepy one. It's the only, and this is the first. I think this is this is episode 24, so this is basically towards the end of the series, actually. And I'll get to it now. There's only 3 stories involving the narrow gauge engines, and they're all included on this one. Interesting enough, because the next episode we've got is Snow, which is actually episode 26. So this is the last episode of the 5th series. Get more on there eventually. Really good one. Very very interesting. Very sort of action-packed type story involving Scarlet being buried alive in snow by avalanche in the middle of a gorge, actually in the middle of a narrow pathway. And the bizarre thing, of course, he shrouds himself in ice because of his firebox and everything else. Like he sort of forms an igloo, and his driving firemen are okay. They're actually safe in the igloo drinking cocoa. Interesting. It's very funny, and again, really good actually. Very visually as well. Sort of again the action-packed type stuff really works. It sort of builds up. It does. It builds up like something's going to happen, of course, and it's like that's it really. And the end, of course, is funny because Golding has this monstrous generator-type snowplow, or I don't know what you call it. It's just a monster machine thing that he's just got, and it just picks up snow. Really, really interesting. And his comeuppance is funny because the bigger the stuff, too much power and too much everything else, it just hauls through, and it's getting stuck at the end. Pretty funny. Pretty good episode. And then finally we have Rusty and the Bold, and this is episode 25. This is the penultimate story, even though it's actually the last one on the VHS. And funny enough, it's actually on the Series 5 DVD, I think, in the VHS as well, actually. Complete Series 5. It's listed as the last episode, even though it's not. It's listed as episode 25. So yes, this is pretty action-packed, very Raiders of the Lost Ark-esque. I mean, very Raiders of the Lost Ark, involving a giant boulder going round, of course, and just causing havoc, visually, and the direction is fantastic. Good use of shots and everything else. It's very intense in places, with how Mitten and his crew have done it. It's just pretty interesting, really action-packed, very good. And also you have that weird supernatural thing, that is Boulder actually alive? Because it shows his face faded. Like, is he someone who's alive or like unintentionally, sort of like a being that's like, you can't say is he real or not, that sort of thing, and that's at the end, of course. It's like, very very supernatural type Watcher Guardian-esque type stuff, like, he looks on the moon but watches over everybody as a protector or something like that. It's very weird, very strange. That is, it's like you don't get that in any other episodes at all. Very much like this sort of thing never pops up again, and it's like it is actually very interesting features as well. Very interesting face they've chosen. Very grey, very ancient-esque. Like, I think it's basically, and it says it like he's been there for many years, like for centuries or something. Very much like on top of this on this little perch on this cliff edge, you know, and just like, again, really good. Again, people always think this is a great one. It's a good one. It is. You know, very stand out. It is. It's just it just goes whole hog on the disaster type stuff, really. You know, just causing chaos and just damaging everything, destroying everything in its path. It's just like we've finally hit peak, of course. In Series 5, it holds no punches. It sort of breaks down the boundaries very much in this one, and that's where it really is. It really does. You know, Series 5 is sort of like the boundary breaker, but afterwards you have like, you know, the boundaries come back and the moral stuff is just heavily included, especially in like in the later stuff, really. You know, this and the other one is just like Finding the Feet, adaptations, of course, and you just have normal stories, really. This one just goes all hog and just does all sorts of stuff, really. Not what you expect, very much. You know, this is more definitive. This VHS for me is definitive, really. Top 5. This is actually the last top 5. Sort of thing, including the top 5 for the Thomas Session VHSs, very much. I can say personal. Colon of Stories for Series 1, The Deputation for Series 2, Escape for Series 3, Thomas and Stepney for Series 4, the only one for Series 4, and Spooks and Surprises for Series 5. Again, really good stuff. And again, it just plows on through the episodes. After minute, after hit, really good stuff. It's a fantastic VHS. You know, people will probably have that in collection, and it's just like, yes, very much. And we've basically hit something like new territory for the show. Thank you guys for watching. I've been talking about Spooks and Surprises from 1998. I'll see you in the next video. See ya.